Well, welcome.
261, you can
Welcome to the live at the sheriff's office. We're just over on Marshall Avenue right now. I'm on patrol. I try to patrol 2 to 3 days a week for a few hours. You hear the radio in the background. Hope that's not too disturbing. Just going by the reception for the funeral for Bajan Adams, our latest homicide victim, was today over at New Hope Church, and the reception was at Dunning. So the reception's just wrapping up here at Dunning. Got shot up at Western and Concordia. Both Minneapolis and St. Paul are on record pace to set homicide records this year.
Can you put my call back in pending and campus squad respond?
So far, it's been a relatively quiet night. There are 4 or 5 calls in the pending queue. We do anticipate a busy Friday night, but right now I'm eastbound on Marshall, coming up on Lexington. Now, obviously, if we come across some confidential stuff, I'll have to turn the camera off. The audio that you're hearing from the police radio is something you can listen to on any scanner app. Ramsey County has not yet encrypted any of the audio. But this is a first for us, live on patrol. So if you can, I can't read the, I can't actually read the comments, so I apologize for that. But you can text me text me to that phone 651-448-3810, 651-448-3810, and when I get a chance to stop, we can answer questions. We did get a question from the first video from about Rice Street. The Rice Street office is definitely reopening. I talked to the troops there. They'll be on their bikes again this next week. So I know that during COVID we haven't really been around, but we'll be back on Rice Street. You probably noticed that car in front just barely made that green light. I don't do a ton of traffic stops unless it's very egregious.
286.
Try to spend time, working on the violence and some of the more serious crimes that are out here. But when I cross over 94 here, I'm going to go back into my my home district. When I started back in the beginning, it used to be the A1 precinct up here on University and Lex. Spent my early years patrolling University Avenue from Western to Snelling, the old Frogtown district. Still have a soft spot for that district, and I love being on the streets up here in University Avenue. Of course, things have changed, but it's still a great place to work. We have had a lot of shootings. This Frogtown area has been one of the leading areas for people to get shot. Clearly, a lot of it's gang related. Just to cut through it, I know that some people are afraid to say the gang word, but we've long had gang problems. Actually, gangs started here in the cities in the 80s. Both the Gangster Disciples and the Crips began moving here from Chicago and Los Angeles, and it's evolved and escalated since then. Unfortunately, a lot of our younger kids are finding that that's the only alternative family they have, and that's a longer discussion. I spent 4 years in charge of the juvenile unit here in St. Paul, and clearly there's a lot of needs and assets that kids don't get that cause them to look for alternative family structure.
172.
But having said that, it's our job to help get them back on track and not allow them to victimize each other or other people. University in Victoria here, best steakhouse on the right. Historically, back in the 70s and 80s, this was a den of prostitution up on University, and most of that's evolved away. Isn't much street prostitution left out here in St. Paul. Of course, the light rail wasn't here.
Midnight miles, go to 4, please.
I've got to keep the radio on in case we hear something important here, a call we want to run in on. And we just
is looking for the east midnight
passed Johnny Babies back there at University and Chatsworth. Really, the owner there, Jonathan Price, great guy. He eventually sold it. You know, it's tough to control what happens in the parking lot. And of course, that was our first homicide of 2019 there in the parking lot of Johnny Babies at University in Chatsworth. So if you got any questions, you know, feel free to text me at that number.
Central West and Roseville.
651-448-3310. You know, you're hearing a lot of radios in the background. Just if you have a scanner, there are 3 main precincts for the city of St. Paul. Channel 1 is the Western District. Channel 2 is the Central District. Right now we're in the Western District. And then Channel 3 is the East Side.
367.
And then the suburbs have 3 channels as well. And the West, Ramsey West is New Brighton, Roseville, and Mounds View.
I didn't hear anything.
Central is
Copy 373 for 7th and 8th.
Sheriff's Office.
4 to 5 shots from the intersection. If you hear anything else.
It's just a call on shots fired over on Bates Street. Central is the Sheriff's Office, and then the Ramsey County East frequency is Maplewood, North St. Paul, and White Bear Lake. So there are 6 frequencies going at one time. I try to scan as many as I can. Sometimes I have 4 radios going, but my wife tells me it's annoying to have all those radios on when we're talking. Feel free to share this video with your friends. I hope their comments are respectful, but it is, of course, free speech. And so we're headed toward the Capitol. You might be able to see the Capitol up ahead there. And when we get to Western, right here, Western is the border between the West Sector.
Freshman vehicle fast on Central.
Hang on one second.
12197th Street. Gray 2-door Dodge Challenger. Last name eastbound on 7th. No plate info at this time. Information at 2106.
So a gray Dodge Challenger was just stolen downtown on 7th Street. No plate information at the current time. A lot of time owners don't have their own plates.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. There was a vehicle that just taken the gray 2-door Dodge Challenger.
Gray 2-door Dodge Challenger.
The owner of the vehicle drove after a female on the Compton motorcycle.
Pulling over to let this fellow go by. So anyhow, we're going north on Western. This is the border of the Western District
267
and the Central District. Sometimes the call will get dispatched on the Western District, and the cops on the Central might not hear the call. So it's very important to be able to notify both on both sides of the street.
Heavy.
We're gonna just go up here. We're at Thomas.
Thanks, 267. $287.
287.
I'll try to let you listen to the radio a little bit.
Mine's Huey. And that 16.
Last one.
167-10-8.
So 167, that means he's a car that works in the Western District, because the Western District is the 100 cars.
199.
199.
Not sure why
Is
these
there any
cars...
post units on tonight?
showing 454 on the board. I'll try to raise them.
Copy, I think we can handle that.
So then at Como here, the border between Western and Central takes a little zigzag and goes over to Dale.
Check channel 1 for 454.
Not only we're on a record homicide rate, but we have a 100% increase in shots fired this year, just in shots fired. And we got a 40% increase in homicides, but then about a 30% increase in people getting shot. So it's been a troublesome year, and last year, August and September were our busiest months. Hey, for those of you that just joined us, thanks so much. I know that a lot of you didn't catch it early. This is the first episode of Live with the Sheriff's Office. We're on patrol in the Western District.
7th and Douglas.
I'm trying to listen to the radio here while I talk.
7th Douglas with a grade
166.
So
166.
we're just talking a little bit about the homicide rate being extremely high, and the funeral today for the most recent young man, Bajan Adams. Reportedly a great kid, and tons of family members gathered there at the funeral. Pastor Rev Spence, good friend of mine, actually he works for the sheriff's office now, it administered the eulogy today, and it's it's just a sad thing that we're not able to stop people from getting killed on our streets. So we'll tell you what we're going to do at some point after we keep this program going. We're going to invite you all to a meeting. I don't know if it'll be virtual or real, but we need to have a real discussion about what the community's expectation is.
The cop does not know the mail.
Community expectation regarding solving crime, because we can't let this continue to slide. I know Chief Axtell's is very, very concerned about what's happening, and frankly, you can't cut $9 million from the police budget and have anything but more crime. I mean, when you cut that much, it really means less squads in your district, slower response times, less people caught, less investigations, and ultimately, more shootings. So I don't know how they're going to figure out what they can do, but I can tell you this, having been out here for a few years, I've never seen a rapid increase in violence that we're seeing now. We're going up Como here, westbound on Como. It's one of the oldest roads in St. Paul. It used to be wagons used to go out here to Como Lake on what was called Territorial Road out to the territory. And not a ton of crime out here, but we did have the Connie's
They don't know.
Cone, the Cup and Cone there did get robbed here recently.
Yep, that car looks like it's a male driver and a female passenger.
All right, I got to listen to the radio for a minute here.
The vehicle's heading back to James Eugene Fruppert out of Roseville.
Yeah, this is where it's part of my original district back in 1977. Of course, the road, those of you that have been around that long, the roads were different out here. And we remodeled in the 80s, we changed the road route. And we're going to go back east on Maryland. I know if I don't fully stop, you guys will be sending me texts, but I'll make sure I do. So let me see. So it's at 9:12. And I do have one-touch phone calling in this car, so if I need to make a phone call, actually I can by pushing a button, in case you're wondering if I'm gonna violate any laws.
371.
Como High School on our right there. Great high school. Roy Magnuson works at the sheriff's office now. He's just lives down the street here on Wheelock and taught there for many years. He's our public information officer. We'll probably have him on live sometime. For those of you that remember Roy Magnuson, just an outstanding individual and great football coach, wrestling coach as well. So here we are. We're up at the Connie's Cone. Can't imagine the terror of having some guy come in there and rob you. And, I remember Godbout's restaurant used to be across there, and actually someone can remind me of what the name of the restaurant was.
25 arrived.
Received.
It's not unusual, I have to be honest with you. I've been in, just since coming back for the last year and a half here, I've been in 25 chases, some of which I was involved with myself, some of which St. Paul or other departments started. There's a fair amount of, Coachman, that was the restaurant, Coachman. Fair amount of controversy over whether to chase or not to chase. And, every department is developing a policy. No one wants to see an innocent person get hit. But one of the things that's happened is
271.
the criminals know that most cops aren't going to chase them. And so even if they've robbed someone at gunpoint,
30 mile 0.
they flee. And so we've had a series, you can go back on my Facebook page or the sheriff's office, we had a series of carjackings and robberies with young kids that are fleeing, and they just continue to shoot at people.
With black stripes.
Hang on one
It has
second.
louvers on the rear of it.
166, check your status.
I am going to flip the radio to channel 2. Now we're on the Central District. We're over here at 444
You said louvers on the rear?
Maryland. We had a homicide here.
Louvers on the rear window, and then there's a front black grill on the vehicle. It went studio northwest from O'Reilly's.
Let me just pull over and
2012
check out
Dodge Challenger, gray with black striped louvers on the rear window, front black grille. Party's phone is inside 19 Northwest from O'Reilly's.
That's the stolen Challenger we're looking for. And back eastbound. Eastbound on
24.
Maryland.
24.
Surprisingly, that camera
I'll
seems
take that domestic.
phone seems to work pretty good.
Copy. Let's go to assess 196 Briggs. Caller stating there was not physically violence, but currently on the porch and requesting should be revoked.
261, this is adding comments, and I can head down there with 24.
Usually I start patrolling around 10, like to work from 10 till 2 in the morning. That's our busiest time. We have had earlier spats now with restaurants and stuff being closed.
Adding comments to my
But,
call, and then I can head down to the domestic.
Now that the restaurants are open, the crime has moved back a little later. It used to be for a while with everything closed at 10 o'clock that the criminals were committing their crime earlier because they had more victims out there. So I'm coming up on Rice in Maryland. The northeast corner is the home of Tin Cup. My good friend Gidget Bailey has awesome cheeseburgers there. Well, a variety of other food as well. But stop in and see her. She was very helpful in helping the owner of the auto parts place help us get a location on Rice Street. And but Gidget does unbelievable things for the community, helping fundraise for important needs, but also just helping people out that are less fortunate. Free dinners, handing out dinners during COVID as well. I'm going to turn into the parking lot here, just see what's happening. The Dollar Tree is closed, of course. I'm not gonna check in on Gidget, but she might be working at the Clover. She owns another restaurant up in Vadnais Heights as well. Like I was saying, I usually start around 10. How's it going? But great food here. All right. So we're in the Central District now on, I should probably turn that radio up so you can hear some of the stuff happening. We're in the Central District.
4-5% on the pond.
Maryland's one of the busiest streets in the city. 15,000 plus people are on here every day. Snelling Avenue is really the busiest with 30 or 35,000. But,
Straight up.
2-8.
Well, for clarification, the vehicle went north, west, like Ike said, but on View, not 7th Street.
all right. So that Challenger was down on 7th.
Vehicle last seen on View.
7th and View, that's where it was seen. In case you text me if you see a Dodge Challenger with louvers in front of us. Sylvan Playground, I remember my little girl Kelsey catching her first fly ball there. She was playing for Phelan, and I was sitting on the hill there, and they hit a fly ball, and she was like 7 years old, Kelsey, and she catches the ball. It's like the first out of the inning. She's so excited, she runs in from the center field and up the hill and gives me a hug. I said, Kelsey, it's only one out. And she ran back out there. So good memory there. Now she's a nurse practitioner up in Grand Forks, has 3 kids of her own. Doing great, married to a farmer in Grand Forks. I'm here in Maryland and Jackson. Hope that guy's not going to just run that red light now. When I first started, right up Jackson here was a junkyard. And we had 6, we called them teams there. And at the junkyard there on Jackson Street was our first central precinct. It was called A2, the A2 precinct. And the office, I didn't work there, I was just trained in there because I worked in A1 over there on University Avenue. But the officers there called themselves the Junkyard Dogs. I don't know if you can get nicknames like that anymore. So obviously that gentleman is in a hurry. We're going to pace him right now. Pace him. See how big of a hurry he is. Like I said, I don't do a ton of traffic stops unless it's a careless driving. I do on occasion though just pull up alongside people and ask them to slow down. We call the sheriff's office the friendly police. Alright, we're crossing over the freeway. In doing so, we're going to the east sector, channel 3. 35E in Maryland. We're going to channel 3. We'll still scan the other channels, but our primary channel on the radio will be channel 3. For those of you that are still just joining us, we're out on patrol with the sheriff's office. We're on the east side. We're headed east on Maryland. Of course, the east side has been very busy. Like Frogtown, there's two areas that have been busy with shooting, sort of the Frogtown area and the east side.
373.
Usually from here south to Minnehaha.
Down the street from DeSoto.
I don't want to predict shooting, but I'll be surprised if the next couple hours we don't have some gunfire erupting.
The Light Rail Central Station, 58 East 5th Street. Commented there's a male who robbed Comp the other day, currently at the westbound platform. possibly had the gun, had previously hit the cop with the gun, possibly DK.
So that's a
Black on the 30 gray head wrap, gray shirt, gray sweatpants, has a bag with him.
possible robbery down on 5th Street at the platform down there, the light rail platform. Central cars downtown and the west side are in the
Is there another squad that can assist on that?
Central District. You'll hear the 2 numbers, and the 500 cars are the beat officers downtown. St. Paul car.
420, go from HQ.
Copy 420, thanks.
Payne Avenue,
Transit's been advised, but they said it started in St. Paul, so
relatively
it's St.
busy area as well.
283.
Remember, if you want to text me a question, 651
I'll take the fight.
448-3810, 448-3810.
366 and a squad to assist for 987 Flandreau. Have a single report of a male and female physically fighting in the streets.
We're going to sneak over there to 987 Flandreau.
382, this will be SNR.
It's a little ways away from us. That's really down by Case and Flandreau, but
Happy to.
a male and a female fighting in the street. I'm sure there's a squad closer to that call than us, but we'll continue to head that way. We're going up to Sam's Dairy. Sam's Dairy up on Maryland. I was there one day when a car came by with
164.
paintball machine guns. Started shooting everybody in the parking lot. Of course, we chased them and caught them, but they're kids,
164.
16-year-old kids, take their mom's car and go get a paintball.
Silver Honda Civic.
Of course, you can imagine how many
Copy, we make contact there.
ways that could have gone wrong.
Address 404 Lima, Mike Yankee Circle.
Just
Plate 224.
not good.
190 traffic.
90.
190 traffic. Arlington.
Kind of in the
to
Payne
jail on
Phelan
Silver.
neighborhood now, eastbound on
There were
Maryland.
no plates.
225.
454, you have 166, go to 4, please.
Just peeking at the CAD. You know, every officer has what's called the computer-aided dispatch computer. It's called the CAD terminal. And on that, we can see all the calls that are out, where the officers are, and all the calls that are pending. And so it's a great tool. You know, when I started, we didn't have such a thing. And then we upgraded in the 80s to what's called the mobile data terminal. And now they're at a computer-aided dispatch. But frankly, I don't really think you need one, but it's a nice tool. You know, most of these young coppers like this technology. You know, frankly, when we didn't have technology, our eyes were more on the street. We were looking for stuff, and I got to tell you, we learned the streets. So I don't know if you know this, but in Ramsey County, every mile is 480 numbers. Like Lexington to Snelling is 1100 to 1580. Every half mile is 240 numbers, and every long block is 60. And so Dale Street will be 620, and then St. Albans 680, and on and on and on. Grotto 740. The point is, we had to learn our streets and we had to learn our numbers. We didn't have GPS. And so most of the old-time cops were able to navigate around St. Paul. It doesn't really matter where you go. There's a couple of exceptions. But 240 numbers to a half mile. It's the same way over here on the east side. It's a little more confusing because the streets aren't laid out like as symmetrical as you would like over here. But 240 numbers to a half mile. And then sometimes there's short blocks that are 30 numbers. Sometimes there's short blocks that are 45. But generally the long blocks are 60. So technology has advantages. I'm not opposed to it. I certainly have a CAD terminal in the car to get caught up. But it does take your eyes off the street at times. And there's no sense in pulling over to get a Google map to figure out where you're going to get to. I mean, it's not unusual for that delay to be caused by cops trying to figure out where they're going. All right, we're at Hazelwood, eastbound on Maryland at Hazelwood, and I'm going to pull into Sam's Dairy. There's been several shootings here. Our St. Paul gang unit, which does an outstanding job, spends a lot of time here. At any given night, anything could happen here. I will greet the patrons and see how things are going. How's it going? It's the friendly police.
I see you.
Good to see you. How's it going?
It's all right tonight.
Good. It's getting hot out, huh?
It's pretty humid.
Yeah, humid. It went up from 85 degrees to 90 in 2 hours today.
2 hours.
Terrible.
Damn shame.
Terrible. Hopefully it'll cool off. Yeah, I mean, really, if you just get out here, oh, this little girl standing by her car, I hope she doesn't see her there. If you just get out and talk to people, they do appreciate you. I mean, it's not unusual to have stolen cars roll through here, but for the most part, people are pleasant. What's going on now? Anything?
It's slow motion out right now, man. We trying to see where the moves at.
You guys need any masks?
Yeah, man.
Let me see if I can get you some masks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
6 masks
it all depends who you're hanging around with, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple. Hang on. Here's another one.
Copy. 2130.
Oh, here we go. Check this out. Got some more.
Yep,
All
that's
right.
about all. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, you have a good night.
Take care, man.
Thank you.
Checking your
Got a little traffic jam here.
Officers at east tonight.
All right. It's the mask patrol. Have a good one.
I believe 383 is.
All right.
Copy. 382 when you get back to your spot.
What do you got?
I've got a civil matter that's pending. Apparently it needs a Spanish speaker to respond.
All right, just remember, you got any questions? Text me at 651-448-3810. 448-3810. Back eastbound on Maryland. Well, we got someone crossing the street here. So back to the whole logistics of there's a lot of different types of police officers. There's no one way to do this job. You know, you need to have a good variety of personalities out here. You know, most importantly, you just need to have people that have some kindness in their heart and want to make a difference, of course. You know, you can't really train person to have people have a good heart, so you got to hire them with a good heart. I have some concerns that I'm going to work with John Thompson from when he gets elected next year on broadening the pool of people that we can hire. But you know, you need a variety. You need some technical people. Some people love the technology.
283.
Some people love being on the street.
The transit would not be responding. I have an update now that they are there with the cop.
Here at White Bear Avenue.
We're out there with her.
I'm gonna go south for a little bit.
420, we show yellow 532.
So anyhow, it's a pleasant night. You know, it's when it's pouring rain or snow, it's not quite so pleasant. But when it's 84 degrees, it's nice being out here. I'm surprised we haven't had more calls. I will tell you that all the there's a lot of cars. Just looking at the screen here, there's, I don't know, I suppose there's 30 calls right now in the city. Nothing totally major, and another 10 calls in the queue pending. You know, the lower priority calls are
529.
just kind of held for a while.
Was made. Can you recall this from a burglary two-way suspicious? Been clarified. And then can you show up and then assist in the same address, please?
So this is Case. Now, when you're going northbound on White Bear Avenue or any street, for instance, and you get to Maryland, you're going to find that Maryland is 1200. Okay? And so if you go a half a mile south, of Maryland, remember 240 numbers south, you're going to run into Case. This Case is a half mile south of Maryland. It's 240 numbers, so Case is 960. So relatively quiet. I'm gonna turn the I'm gonna pull over, and I hear a few beeps or some questions, so I'm just gonna pull over here. We're just south of Maryland. So all right, somebody asked who is with me. No one's with me. I'm by myself. I do patrol with other people sometimes, but not so much during COVID. COVID has changed, everything that we're doing. I usually work the streets for about 4 hours, usually about 10 to 2. But tonight it might be a little earlier. My son's got a football camp in the morning that I got to get him to. So here's a question. Could I explain the difference between the police department and the sheriff's department? All right, I'm going to drive while I answer that. That's a great question. So every city, every municipality has the right to have their own police department, and many do. 300 in Minnesota. Many have their own police departments, and the police departments are responsible for responding to calls for service, investigating crimes that occur in those areas. So that is the primary job of the police department. So the sheriff's office, there's one sheriff in every county. There's 87 counties in Minnesota, and the sheriff's office has a set of mandates in statute. One is to run the jail.
Squad 376.
So when people bring prisoners to the jail, when they arrest somebody, they bring them to the sheriff's office at the jail. That's number one. Number two, court security. We're very involved with court security. I'm just going to turn up Flandreau here. I was kind of avoiding going to that call. Remember that call where the man and the woman were fighting in the 900 block of Flandreau? I think the squad's already been here and cleared, but just in case, we'll just go up there a little further ahead. So sheriff's office has the jail and has court security for all the judges bringing the prisoners to court and protecting the court, etc. The third mandate really is running water patrol, and the sheriff's office is responsible for the water. In fact, as you know, yesterday night we recovered an 11-year-old boy down in Hidden Falls, and so had been drowned a couple days earlier. Terrible thing is we haven't released his name, but there'll be a story in the morning paper. I think the family's talking to the media. Terrible thing. People should stay out of rivers. They're just very dangerous with currents and undertows. So you got jail, courts, and water patrol. Now here's what gets interesting. If a city chooses not to have a police department, they can contract with the sheriff's office. And 7 cities in suburban Ramsey County have chosen to do that with us. So we provide primary police service for 7 cities. And those cities have changed over years. Some cities decide to go with a different city. Of course, after the Philando Castile case, we we took over in Falcon Heights as well. So we are the primary police agency for about a third of the county in the suburbs up there. So then the other thing is, if there's regional problems such as narcotics, the sheriff's office provides what's called the regional task forces, where all agencies participate to combat crime problems such as drugs, violent offenders, etc. So the police department have their role. Any of the cities that we provide service for at any point could say we're going to provide our own police department, but they find it's more efficient to have supervision. Instead of every city having a sergeant working, we might have one sergeant working that supervises 7 cities. So that was a great question. There's probably some other nuances there too, but so I am going to pull over again so I can legally look down at a text and answer a couple other questions. I'm at 7th Street, as you know. There's a detour up ahead, but I think I can still pull over here and get some questions in here. All right, so next question. Am I in a marked car? I am not in a marked car. However, I have complete lights, front, back, couple different sirens. So this squad's fully capable of responding. It has stop sticks as well for pursuits. Of course, some of those people saw that light and they're stopping. So, but it's a fully capable squad car. It is pursuit rated. It is pursuit rated as well. All right, so explain the mask order. I'll try to get that explained sometime today. Mental health workers and substance, trauma, forensics. We see challenges between our clients and officers. This includes how clients are approached despite staff advocating. How can the community... Well, we're definitely going to have to figure out a way to get mental health workers working side by side with law enforcement officers. We either got to start training mental health people to be cops, or we got to pair them up. And because it's a huge issue, 70% of the people in our facility, 70% of the people in our facility have mental health issues. I'm going to keep moving here so we can get the radio on. We can maybe get you in the middle of something going on as well. But the mental health, the chemical addiction, let's just face it, there's 3 key issues in our jail. The people in our jail, 75% of them aren't functionally literate to be able to read and succeed outside. 80% have some form of chemical addiction, drug of choice, and 70% have mental health issues. So there's lots of work to be done. We do train our officers. We've been doing that for years. 20 years ago, some people with mental health got injured.
Bravo 552.
But in some cases were shot. I mean, there's been, you're aware of the Barbara Snyder Foundation. I mean, there's just tons of work that needs to be done. The problem is these officers out here have to have so many different skill sets. And, the things can change dramatically in the course of, I've only fired my gun once at, so it's a car involved in a robbery at the Clark Station back on Rice Street. Most cops will never fire their gun, but I'll say this, I guess I did fire a warning shot once. The warning shots used to be legal back in the 80s. But the cops today, it's far more dangerous now than it was back in the 70s and 80s. The level of weaponry that's out there is just threefold as bad as it used to be
Thank you.
before the gang and drug problem evolved.
170 to copy and Route 901 calling Concordia 242.
I'll see if I can get back on a main street there. It's a little more interesting when you got a little more light. Like I said, this is our first time with this show, and appreciate you tuning in and having interest.
532.
You never know what's going to happen out here. You just,
532.
that's part of the great thing about being a police officer.
Mark this is stop underneath that PCN. Mark for 420 283 in transit.
The variety of what can happen and what does happen. It
Copy.
keeps the job interesting. It's sad to see that so many Minneapolis officers are leaving the career. I don't really know personally any of their leaving, but I know from reading the news reports that whole incident was at the 3rd Precinct had an impact on them as well. But by and large, I think police officers come on this job because they want to help people. I mean, you know, I was in Boy Scouts as a younger person, and you want to find a way to be there to help people when they're in need, and this job does provide that. There's nothing better than having the look on a person's face when you help them. I remember a couple times in my career that I helped people that couldn't speak, and you know, by just sitting them in the car and writing notes back and forth, and you know, to understand what their needs were. And when I remember one in particular got out on University Avenue and mouthed the words "thank you" to me through the window. I tell you what, there's nothing more fulfilling than to have a person that can't talk mouth the words "thank you" to you because you took the time to. I remember it was a car accident. They were trying to figure out where their car was going and was going to get towed because it was total. So most cops, I got to tell you, most cops just want to find a way to help people, and sometimes arresting people is helping victims. There are bad people out here. I mean, let's just cut to it. I mean, there's 50 to 75 hardcore gang members out here that are out here harming people on a nightly basis, and they need to be incarcerated. But we're talking about 50 to 75 out of thousands and thousands of people in this town. So the numbers are manageable if we're willing to take some actions and some steps to do it. We're over here on Minnehaha Arcade. We're westbound on Arcade. Oh, there goes a gentleman walking in front of us. We're going to drive up Payne Avenue here and then down Arcade. Like I said, I don't normally start till 10 because usually the activity usually starts around 10 or 10:30. But I see some more text. Remember, the number is
We have a caller reporting
hang on.
10 people fighting at the area of Hawthorne and Greenbrier.
All right.
373 GOA, I'll go.
Hawthorne and Greenbrier, 10 people
Copy
fighting.
373.
That's right by the playground up there. We're going to head up that way. In Hawthorne and Greenbrier and see who's fighting. Hopefully the fight won't deteriorate. There goes the squad there. He's headed up there too. You know, it's all depends on the nature of the call in terms of whether they go red lights or siren. Truthfully, we'll get there with speed. I have an Opticom on here that we can hold that green light. Oh, I don't know what that is. We got a fire run now too. That's a medic going down Phelan Boulevard. We don't
267.
We don't get all the medic calls. I'll tell you this: in the sheriff's department up in the suburbs, the agencies in the suburbs go on all medicals because they only have a skeleton medical crew. But in St. Paul, because you have the finest medical service in the country right here. I mean, literally the finest medical service and fire department. They handle all the calls, so the police officers are not notified of the medical calls that they're going to. So keep in mind, Hawthorne is 1 block north of Maryland, so that's where we're having. Greenbrier is a block east of Payne, so we're headed up here, see if there's 10 people fighting. I gotta be honest with you, most of the time if it's just a fighting call, they're usually gone by the time we get there. But we'll see tonight. The squad's up there ahead of me, he's taking a right. Maybe he decided to go straight to Hawthorne. Alright. Passing Maryland, see the squad up there taking the right to go
2149.
down to Greenbrier. If you just joined us, we're headed to a fight call, 10 people fighting. Hawthorne and Greenbrier. What was going on over there? A little fight or what? Oh, what? Was it you guys? Are there still some people out in the street there? Not, you know. Anybody? Would you hear any weapons at all, or anybody threaten anything?
366.
Just a normal fight? Nothing really. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your help.
Just to investigate. It'll be advised.
Copy at 2150.
So, oh, 2 squads out here, but
6164.
I'm just gonna roll them by here.
No response, 2150.
Person, sir, 140.
Copy 367.
All good?
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Hold up, back in Chicago, some damn well.
There's 2 parties inside right now. They're sitting down.
If there was a fight, it's over.
You can confirm that the cop is the owner.
Squad said they're good.
Otherwise, we're going to need some more squads here.
Company standby, I'll check with TC.
Tell you the other thing we get a lot late at night, we get a lot of street racers at Energy Park Drive.
166, I'm at Vic and Uni. Copy, you can go around the south side to the alley just in case they try to book it. Copy. 631, what do they have?
Two one, you're on 3.
I'm gonna run back to the west sector here. Sounds like a little bit busy over there on the west side, on the university area.
Last word, go ahead.
631, what do they have in West?
423 University for an alarm. There are 2 people inside trying to verify if there's anyone supposed to be there. Squad 166.
Westbound on Maryland here at
166.
Edgerton.
Per TC, the caller is not the owner, just one of the managers.
All right.
166 are walking out.
Copy, prayers are walking out.
right, well, it's 8 minutes to 10. Unfortunately, things get busier after 10. I'm not sure if it'll happen tonight, but it usually does. So shooting here 2 nights ago at the Speedway here.
All right, 167, we're out with the 2.
Arkwright.
Being cooperative.
Arkwright,
We
Maryland.
talked to the manager and see
Listen,
what the name of the
the
owner is.
victim here got shot in the head, went through his cheek and in the arm, and he actually had been shot once before over on 600 block of Charles. Not a good sign, of course. But fortunately, he did not die. Otherwise, we would have had our 19th homicide of the year in St. Paul. Crossing back over the freeway, and you can see the traffic is starting to build. People are out and about, moving around. A lot of people going places. Tomorrow the mask law does come into effect. You don't have to wear them when you're outside socially distancing, but when you're in a restaurant going to and from your table, you have to have it on any public spaces that you're in, that you're not eating or drinking. And mask will have to be on. I don't think there's going to be strict enforcement, but it will help reduce the spread. We all got to get behind getting this spread stopped. So the big thing is keep your 6 to 8 foot distance, and if you can't, make sure you got a mask on so your breathing particles don't affect anybody else. We're going to drive down Rice Street. I don't think we've been down Rice Street yet. We crossed it. Show you our substation there. Show you where Mezzy Ross was shot and killed there at Rice and Winnipeg. I would say if there's any one spot that has majority of shots fired, it's Rice and Winnipeg. And so our gang unit does an awesome job. I mean, there's St. Paul gang unit is monitoring it as often as they can, but it's a tough crew down there. There's some days that I don't even feel safe driving down Winnipeg when the crowd of gangsters are out there in the street doing their business. You know, you need to have a partner down there. So we're gonna go south on Rice Street. Got the turn signal on here. Yeah, we'll wait a cycle. But Rice Street hasn't really been, outside of Rice and Winnipeg and Manitoba, where we had a house full of gangsters there that lived in that area, and now they kind of returned. Rice Street has been relatively safe. Like I said, most of our shots fired shootings over in Frogtown, between Western and Lexington, north of the freeway. And then over here on the east side where we just came from, between Minnehaha. You know, sadly, if I sit down in Minnehaha and Forest or Earl for a couple hours on any given night, there's a good likelihood I'll hear some shots fired. It doesn't mean someone will get shot. It's just that there's a preponderance of gunplay. Sometimes it's celebratory, but we usually do have some type of shooting after a funeral of someone that was shot and killed by another faction. I mentioned to you earlier, for those of you that are on there, that we began the show over at the reception for Bajan Adams, who was shot and killed here at Western and Concordia. And there's a lot of hurt feelings, as you can imagine. So we're in Central District. I'm going to switch us to Channel 2. You'll still hear some of the broadcast. Oh, I got to recommend this, Dar's Double Scoop. If you ever get a chance to stop here at Dar's. How's everybody? How's the ice cream? Is Kevin in there? The owner? You tell him Fletcher said hi. Okay. Best ice cream ever. Yeah. Oh, here he goes. You got a guy. It's 3 minutes to 10. He's serving the community ice cream. He's not afraid to be open. It's seriously one of the best vendors there. Dar's Double Scoop on Rice Street. Say hi to Kevin if you're here. Mama's Pizza, of course. Tony cooks the best pizza in town here on the right. And then we're
But
gonna,
26121.
we'll get down here to Rice and Winnipeg. One of our continued hot spots.
Close but single caller. Saying that they heard 4 shots in the area of Lewis Park, 900 Marion.
Oh, there we go.
Nothing else seen or heard.
4 shots heard at the Lewis Apartments on Marion. That's just 2 blocks west of where we're at
Central
here.
Sergeant copy.
We'll slide over there too. But let me see. Bourne's Bar. How's it going? Everybody all good?
2158.
Bourne's Bar on Rice Street. Sometimes we have cameras up here. We're gonna drive down Winnipeg. Oh, there's a camera right here, either police department or sheriff's department. Got a camera on our right. That's the police department camera. We've used ours just to keep an eye on these guys. There's nobody here tonight, so go ahead. How's your night going? Good. Love it. Beautiful weather, huh? So, Winnipeg is clear for some of those gang unit guys that are monitoring this broadcast. Winnipeg is clear. So, I'm going to turn around here in a minute.
167.
Take a few more
I'm clear.
questions.
I'll take your suspicious on Van Buren and check the area.
Suspicious call over on Van Buren.
Both sides are getting a second caller now, but nothing further other than they heard 4 shots.
We're going to drive over to the Lewis area. Lewis Apartments on
281 copy.
6363.
All right.
6 call him in the air, that shot.
Copy 61.
I'm just going to pull over here. We get so many shots fired calls. I mean, half of them actually are fireworks, and some of them, all right, let me just go. I'm pulled over now. I got some questions here for me. What's the most rewarding part of the job? I hope I explained it, just being there to help people. I mean, there's nothing better than just being there to help people. Let me see what else we got here.
1285.
I don't know the names of who people are, but
Clear advice. Yeah, KPLC. Good stand for no break.
why did I decide to become an officer? That is a great story. Glad you asked that. And then somebody wants me to drive down Timberlake. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna drive down Timberlake while we're talking. But the police officer story is a funny story. I was at Hamlin University.
281 on a couple blocks.
First of all, I went to Hamlin to be a doctor. And after 2 years of mixing chemicals in organic chem lab and analytic chemistry, I said, this sitting up and watching everybody else out the window play softball, I wanted a job working with people. So I went to my advisor, Dr. Harrigan,
Scott 532.
and I said, what can I do
532.
that would be more people oriented?
St. Peter for female.
And he said, well, have you thought about being a lawyer?
And
And I said, yeah, that wouldn't be, I enjoy that. So I checked in with my parents, of course, and they said it'd be fine if you switched from being a doctor to a lawyer. And I graduated in a pre-law program in political science and government. And I was down at the Burger King on University and Fry. It's not there any longer, but for those of you who remember it, there was a sign on the wall that said police officers wanted. And the person I was with said, hey, Bob, you should be a police officer. And to be honest with you, I'd never thought about it. And he said, no, you would be a good one. So frankly, I took the test in November of 1976. John Harrington was in the Civic Center with
Flight
me.
287.
There was 1,981 people,
Go ahead.
and by May of the next year when I was graduating from Hamlin, they offered me a job.
Some kind of product that she
And to be honest with you, my parents thought, no way. They wanted me to be a lawyer. So I promised them that if I'd go back to Willie Mitchell part-time while I was a police officer. And I got to tell you what happened. I fell in love with the work. I never felt like it was work. And I just enjoyed every minute of it. So never went back to law school.
2x4 that didn't have it.
Thought I would, but didn't. And so it was really, it was an outreach program to try to hire people from the city. That it was a sign that I happened to see. So I don't know. It's funny how life changed. But here's the point. Here's the most important point. I couldn't get hired today because back then they let people of different degrees and different experiences get hired. Now we have a very narrow pool of people that we can hire from. So people that are looking for career changes or went to college in a different field, even mental health. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could hire people with mental health degrees or addiction degrees? But we can't because they have to have a 2-year law enforcement degree. And so one of the things I want to do is broaden the pool of who we can actually hire so we can get some of those additional skill sets in there. But if it was today, I couldn't get hired. You know, speaking of those shots fired, you know, the controversy last year about ShotSpotter. You know, Minneapolis has it. It's a great tool, and ShotSpotter can tell whether or not it's fireworks or real guns. It can even tell if the type of caliber, and it can tell if there's more than one gun involved. And here's finally the amazing thing about ShotSpotter technology. It can tell you if the gun is moving while it shoots, so we can tell whether it's a drive-by or a walk-by.
279.
But if the echo of the round is moving while it's in a car, it'll tell us, and it'll tell us which way it was shooting, and we'll know, you know, within 30 seconds that shots have been fired. Versus now, when people call in, it's at least 2.5 minutes till we get the information on that. So I just wanted to mention that as well. So we're going to drive by down Timberlake, and I got a request to drive down there. I got to tell you, I started working in the McDonough Homes with the Hmong community back in 1990 when I was in charge of the juvenile unit. And back then we had the White Tigers and Cobra gangs forming. And so we started a Boy Scout troop in McDonough. Rich Stratka was a sergeant at St. Paul, but a commander retired, ran the troop. And we started a reading program eventually there as well. But the point is, there's a lot of immigrant kids in a lot of these poor neighborhoods that we can save if we help them when they're elementary school and junior high, before they slip into the gang life that becomes the alternative. But McDonough's always...
5366.
Hang on one second. McDonough Homes has always been a place for people to transition.
366 to assist. We have a silent alarm covering glass break at 1546 Street East, Harding Senior High School. No visual. Correction, there's a visual of a vehicle in the main parking lot.
Copy.
So we got alarm at Harding High School.
382.
There's a car in the parking lot. Glass breakage. Obviously, that's way over by White Bear and 6th Street, so nowhere near us.
386.
As we're going up Jackson here to Timberlake. On the right here,
386.
McDonough Homes.
You can clear my GOA and send me that one.
Copy, Street.
A couple months ago, right, we were here for, there was a homicide in the parking lot. I'm going to drive there right where it was. It was a terrible scene. And I don't remember his name. I can look it up here and remind you, but I can show you where it was, and it was a lot of people were unhappy and yelling and angry. We ended up having 50 to 60 police officers here to secure the scene. It's right here off of Timberlake and Jackson. There where that car is, that's where the gentleman's body was. He had been at a party, and this home to our right, and had an argument. But Dan Selkolowski, who used to work at the sheriff's office, he texted me and said he wanted to drive down Timberlake for old time's sake. So here we are, Dan, and a lot of people made the jump to mainstream America from right here. This great community center. We used to coach soccer out on the fields here as well with our young Hmong kids. Dan was a dispatcher, returned deputy, good friend at the sheriff's office, and then he retired. Pretty quiet here, but like I said, back in the 90s, we had the proliferation of Asian gangs, and what we did then is that was the beginning of the forming of, actually it started in the late 80s, ACOP, a community outreach program. And as you'll see, St. Paul has several cars here, so they have their community outreach program headed out of this McDonough Community Center. And I gotta give a shout out, if anybody knows John Gutzman, the executive director of St. Paul Public Housing. John Gutzman is one of the finest human beings I've run across. Just does an outstanding job managing the facilities and employees, and I gotta tell you, we're just so lucky to have some of the best public housing that there is. So in a couple minutes here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop episode 1, and we'll start right up with episode 2. I hate to do that to you, but we want to keep these videos a manageable length. I was hoping to keep them an hour long, but we'll start episode 2 right away after we start here. So McDonough Homes, Timberlake. Dan, I hope I did it justice. Mount Airy, of course, is, you go far enough south on Jackson, you run into Mount Airy, and that's where we started the Sheriff's Literacy Program as well. Keep people help people learn how to read. And now, of course, our latest immigrant community is the Somali community and a Karen community, and the Sheriff's Youth Literacy Program is working to help the Karen community as well. In fact, we're starting last winter we started a hockey program. So I am going to turn on this street here, stop the camera, and get it set up for episode 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I don't even know how many people were actually on, but it's very kind of you to listen to me, and I'll take a look at the questions here while we stop too. As you can tell, I'm pulling the camera out.